Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And a good morning to you on this Thursday, June 15. A lot of sobering stuff here. Like, what else is new? Amazingly, the jury in the Bowers trial, the man who massacred 11 Jews, they could get the case this afternoon. They could start their deliberations this afternoon. The defense never presented a case. They'll have closing arguments. Don't know what they're going to argue. They didn't even present a case. Prosecution will have closing arguments today, and the jury will get. It can't. I mean, in this phase, which is determining guilt or innocence, the jury should be out about 2 minutes, right? There's no doubt, which is why this alleged before killer in any article about Bowers just made me crazy. And his own defense acknowledges he did it. So I'll tell you, for those of us who oppose the death penalty, this one's makes you question your resolve. I don't only want the guy dead; I want him hunted. I want him to feel half the terror that those poor people felt. But I don't know. So, whatever. The testimony yesterday was, by all accounts, gut-wrenching, of course. When you read the accounts of the testimony yesterday, you are left with questions. They played the 911 tapes, but those tapes have not been made available to the public, as far as I'm aware. And they're harrowing. And in fact, yesterday, the last witness that was called by the prosecution, Andrea Wedner, whose mother was the oldest victim, she asked to leave the court room while the 9/11 tape that featured her call was being played, because she couldn't stand listening, because you could, on the tape, apparently hear her mother's last dying gasps. You hear the anguish, the horror, the terror. She testified about how she watched as her own arm exploded. She said she looked down, and what had been her arm looked like raw meat, shredded meat. 97-year-old mother shot in the face. A reporter said that the 9/11 call captured the loud, booming shots, followed by screams and wailing, the kind driven by physical pain, but also by anguish. There is loud, deep, ragged breathing. Somebody mutters, "Oh God." I hate to say this, but I hope he gets the death penalty. Whether it'll be carried out or not, I don't know. Son of a bitch. Oh, God. Okay. Well, this is almost a funny story. Okay, almost a funny story. I couldn't believe it when I saw the headline. The Taliban is selling tickets, trying to create a major tourist attraction. Selling tickets for the site where it destroyed, blew up those huge Buddha statues, you may recall. Statues that had stood for well over 1,000 years. Remarkable statues carved into a mountain, believed to be from the year, 500 something? 500 something? And the Taliban, of course, seeing them as sacrilege because they weren't Buddhists, they were Muslims. They blew them up. Things like just yesterday, it was 22 years ago. It was, 22 years ago, 2001. And now they're having second thoughts. And they still think they can get people to come and look at where these amazing objects had been. Because the site still looks like something amazing must have been there, given that there are these huge, crevice, it's not a crevice, places where the Buddhas stood, to call those. Big oval thingamajigs. What? God. What's the word? And so now it's unbelievable. There's an ice cream, there's a guy selling ice cream. Meanwhile, the place is, I see here in this article, they're calling them cavities. Okay, there's a word, cavity. God forbid you should have a cavity this large. This is where there were those two, and you can conjure the image. They were amazing. They were like 1,500 plus years old. They were considered one of the most extraordinary artistic creations in the world. And the Taliban blew them up. And now the Taliban's current deputy culture minister says that the Buddhas are of great importance to our government, just as they are to the world. He's speaking of them as if they're there. They destroyed them. They're selling tickets to see something that doesn't even exist anymore. It's a site of a horrible crime. They put more than 1,000 guards around the site to protect it. From whom? To protect what? To protect it from themselves in retrospect? You have to, there are times, I'm sorry, I'm babbling because this is the same kind of feeling I get when I try to comprehend, like the Republican universe, where everything is upside down, where nothing makes any sense. Ay. Headline, Washington Post, cash strapped Taliban selling tickets to ruins of Buddhas, it blew up. Let me tell you, you can't see any ruins. All that's left are those 2 empty spots. The only thing I will say is that I do give them credit for somehow managing to destroy these wondrous things, wipe them out, and not have destroyed those 2 still monumental cavities in which they stood. God. They fired anti-aircraft guns at them. They detonated explosives under them. And now they want to sell tickets. Here's another quote. These archaeological sites could massively improve people's lives here. Whoa, why didn't you think of that before you blew them up, you nits? God almighty. So anyway, that's something. God. Okay, what else in that same realm? God, I have it. And closer to home. Let's leave Afghanistan and go to Harrisburg. Okay, a site often of extraordinary head-scratching actions, and also a place where the Republican Party has been long in charge. Hang on, I'm having trouble getting my thingamajiggy here. Okay. So the Republicans in the Senate, why can't I? Oh, dang it. Here it is. I'm sorry. The Republican-controlled state Senate. The Democrats are in control of the House now by one measly vote, but still in control. The Republicans still, the one thing they still control is the Senate. So they're busy doing what Republicans do. And one of the things they voted on, and all the Republicans got in line and voted for it, so it passed. And I don't think it's going to do too well in the House. You know what they're doing? It's very important, given all the things that are going on in Pennsylvania. There's so much work to be done here. And if you are a public servant, a servant of the people of the Commonwealth, I can see why this would be uppermost and something that you would care about. The bill would rename the state's Department of Environmental Protection to the Department of Environmental, should say destruction. But that's not it. That's not it. That's what they mean. The Department of Environmental Services. That word protection just galls Republicans. Protecting the environment, a state agency. My God, there's a federal one too, to protect the environment. And for a party whose main reason for existence is the protection of the rich and their ability to get richer at the expense of the environment or anything else that might stand in their way. It's a galling thing, the Department of Environmental Protection. And what's struck me, I thought this is just a riot, because this is what I've always said. I think I said it just the other day, that when I was talking about the former Interior Department head under Reagan, James Watt, dying, and in his obit talking about how he every action he took was to destroy the environment, every action. And so when Republicans get in office, these agencies, their names are jarring because they do not in any way mirror what the Republicans use those agencies for. In fact, it's as so many things with Republicans these days, it's the opposite. Environmental destruction, environmental exploitation, environmental services. Unbelievable. So, in case you missed that one, they're busily at work there in Harrisburg, busily at work there in Afghanistan. I'll tell you. And there's a lot of commonality between the Taliban and Republicans. I mean, really, it's getting more and more apparent. They're both authoritarian. They both wrap themselves in religion. They both are intent on suppressing women, controlling their bodies, their movements, everything. The Taliban and the Republicans. Can't you see a bunch of right-wing Republicans blowing up statues of Buddha? Yeah, I can. Yeah, Susie just, see, I did not know this, although I read papers and I agree with you. Before a trial, Bauer's trial, started, I had said there's going to be a slew of national reporting on this because it was such a huge national story when it happened. And in fact, day one, of the trial, where nothing much happened other than trying to start figuring out how to create the jury pool, there was a media scrum down there, and there were articles I saw in the New York Times. And then they lost interest. And I have noted it too. Susie writes, I am so angry that the national media, television especially, is not carrying anything about this trial. I'm astonished. How can I still be astonished? Of course, television news doesn't give a damn. Maybe so what is it that they haven't reported to a national audience? The testimony of the witnesses and of the police would drive home, and anyone who's been paying attention, the horror. This was an historic crime scene, the worst attack on Jews in American history. It is amazing how that Jewish-controlled media wouldn't cover that story. And with, as far as we know, the incidence of anti-Semitism on the rise, for them not to cover this. Bowers was brainwashed by right-wing people who post things. The guy who was the big guy behind Mastriano, who wanted to be our governor, Mastriano's campaign, the guy whose site Gab Bowers posted on and lapped up all the anti-Semitic crap on it, he was called as a witness. That was not covered. Because it was his site that infected and infested the mind of Bowers with this idea of, it's a lot of right-wing and Republican talking points, George Soros, caravans of marauding people coming across our border, the Jews funding it, the Jews wanting to replace white people with brown people. It's not just Bowers that was drinking that in and taking it as fact. There's millions that still do on a daily basis. Some of this shit's on Twitter too. Elon Musk has provided another platform for this kind of hate. And of course, it's not just Jews, it's any group that is not white, Christian, male, conservative. And our national media, I don't know, well, the media has become so corporatized and so incapable of doing what I swear it used to do, which is cover things. I mean, you used to be able to turn on, actually CNN at one point in its history was really good at, if you just wanted an overview of all the stuff that was going on in the world, in the country, they'd spend 3 minutes here and then 4 minutes there and then 2 minutes here. They would inform you about stuff going on that day. They don't do that anymore. And then it seems to me like the NBC, CBS, ABC, they have abdicated their responsibilities as well. They cover the weather, for Christ's sake, more than, well, although the weather now isn't. But no, just weather. Storms in the south predicted. The lead story. And they do that because that's the stuff that is easily digestible, accessible to people. People they know tend to turn away from stuff that upsets them. I don't know. Susie, I thank you for reminding me. I've been thinking the same and meaning to say it. Unbelievable that national media has turned a blind eye to this. And you can say, well, it's big here because it happened right here. A lot of us knew some of these poor people. Yeah. But as I said, it is a historic crime. And it's not being covered. Hey, just a follow-up. Again, something news media don't do very much. I had shared with you weeks ago a story about, I guess, one of the largest healthcare systems. And again, healthcare system is a misnomer in this country. I won't even bother getting into it. These are often charities, supposedly. This particular one in Minnesota called Alina Health. I had shared a story with you about the fact that it was denying treatment to patients who had as much as 2 cents that they hadn't paid. Anyone with any debt to the hospital, they would not care for, despite the fact that they are given tax exempt status as a charity. And here's why, media is a good thing. That story created such a stir that Alina Health announced, last week. Can you imagine a healthcare organization putting out a statement that, all right, we'll stop withholding care from patients with medical debt. It says here, the health system will now temporarily halt this practice. Oh, as soon as we all look away, as soon as the media pack up and leave, they'll go back. We'll temporarily halt this practice, but will not restore care for indebted patients who have already lost access. Oh, so, okay. Wow, they are some awful people. The chief executive, one Lisa Shannon, called the move a, quote, thoughtful pause while the company re-examined the policy. There's gotta be a circle in hell for these people, for the Lisa Shannons of the world who enjoy the good life. I hope. It's, I don't believe in heaven and hell, but it's things like this that make me want to desperately imagine that people like this burn in hell. Here's a doctor for the system. I hope this is not just a temporary pause until the heat is off. Come on. He knows damn well. That's exactly what it is. I hope they do the right thing and reinstate the patients who were already terminated. They already said they wouldn't. And I'm sure after their thoughtful pause, they'll thoughtfully continue to deny health care to their patients, because that's the way health care works in this America. Oh, God. I'm reminded of something I said to you a long time ago. If misery loves company, this is the place to be. Okay. I said the other day about Pat Sajak saying goodbye to Wheel of Fortune, and I said I was astonished that some people were astonished to know that he was like a real serious right winger. Well, the New York Times actually gave a little more information on that score. He is really out there. And I'm sort of surprised he lasted as long as he did. But I guess that never really, most people didn't know it. He actually has been writing a conservative column, and the Times calls him a social media opinionator for the far right. And I had mentioned that, he posed with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that's how far right we're talking about. We're talking totally does not believe there's any climate crisis. He once tweeted this: global warming alarmists are unpatriotic racists, knowingly misleading for their own ends. Pat Sajak, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of Crazyville, and I hate to go back to Trump, but I have to. Good column by Nicholas Kristof today. Headline: a president governing from behind bars? He says, an absurd question keeps nagging at me. Could an inmate in federal prison get a leave to attend his own presidential inauguration? Just ask it. Because, and I can see how Kristof would find himself at that puzzling point. Because, as he says, it seems increasingly plausible that Donald Trump will become the first former president to be convicted of a felony. And also, he seems increasingly likely to win the Republican nomination for president, which means he could actually be elected president. And he says, you know, I know we all think he's going down, but my nightmare, believe me, we can all share it. My nightmare is that the United States slips into a recession, that voters blame on Biden, or there's a Middle East crisis that raises gas and oil prices, and maybe throw in a third-party candidate who draws more votes away from Biden than from Trump, or maybe Biden has a little health crisis. Or, he ends up not able to run, and who is the Democratic nominee? It's somebody who's much weaker, probably Harris. And as Christoph says, so Trump's re-election as president seems unlikely, but it is not impossible. And of course, the consequences would be catastrophic. You want to see refugees? Americans as refugees. Might well be among them. So, even if Trump, let's say, is convicted, and even if he's imprisoned, he can still be running for the presidency. He could even presumably hold the office. Christoph says if he isn't too busy making license plates in the prison factory, but so that's possible, huh? It's possible. Not probable, but it was never probable that this horse's ass, when he came down that escalator, could be elected in the first place. I mean, could we have a president governing from behind bars? Well, here's why not. He would, if he were the president, he'd pardon himself, right? Although I guess that's not a given either, but he's got, the packed court. Speaking of the packed court, I want to turn my attention, as did the New York Times, to this embarrassment of a judge, Lynn Cullen, who strangely has managed to be the judge that's supposed to preside over what would be the most historic, extraordinary federal trial ever. The piece it just fleshes out what is known, which is she is so unqualified to be sitting on that federal bench in the first place. Like, if you were to go all over the federal bench, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody with as little experience as this woman. The reality is that she had never been a judge in her life when he made her a federal judge. She had never been even a little, like a magistrate somewhere. She had never been a judge. And since she's been a judge, all of 2 or so years, 2.5 years, she has been assigned 224 cases, only 4 of which went to trial. So she's got the cases, but as for actually presiding over a trial, she has presided over, count them, 4. And you know how many days, if you take all those four trials that Judge Cannon has presided over, they add up to 14 days that she sat in a courtroom as a presiding judge. 14 days. Anyone would tell you that in a case of this import, the last thing you want in a case that will be complex, where every little move is going to, they'll be appealing to the judge, either side, this, that, everything is going to result in a clash. You need a cool cucumber who's been there. And even that cool cucumber will be sweating. But this woman, this is the idiot who stunned the entire legal establishment. And I'm talking entire, rarely that happens, conservatives, liberals, when she actually said that as a former president, Donald Trump should get special protection against, these targeted subpoenas and warrants. And it was, as you know, a conservative court, Trump-appointed court, told her, "Are you fucking nuts?" Well, they didn't quite say that. But it even, it got sent over to the Supreme Court, which we know is a Trump court. And the Supreme Court refused to hear it. I mean, kept in place the "are you fucking nuts" edict. So anyway, just saying. It says here, the Trump case is likely to raise myriad complexities that would be challenging for any judge, let alone one who will be essentially learning on the job. There are expected to be fights, for example, over how classified information can be used as evidence under the Classified Information Procedures Act, which is a national security law that Judge Cannon has apparently never dealt with before. And let me remind you of how she got onto this court. Do you remember when Barack Obama wanted to put Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court? And he was told by Mitch McConnell, "You can't be appointing justices. Why, you're out of office and your term expires in 10 months. You're a lame duck. You shouldn't be able to appoint justices for life." All right, and that they did that, and then the court got packed. And Judge Cannon, was appointed by Trump after he had lost the election. He was as lame a duck as you could have, and he still spent those remaining few months just tossing these absolutely inexperienced judges at the federal judiciary. And who greased the skids for every one of them and got them through? Mitch McConnell, the very same guy who was astonished that Barack Obama thought he could put anyone on a federal bench when he had almost a year left in office. You cannot understate how crooked, hypocritical, and dangerous these Republicans are. She was 38 years old, which is, I guess, you can't be any younger and even be. And you have to put out this, you have to give them all this information, fill out a questionnaire. The questionnaire asked her to provide all reports, memoranda, policy statements that she had written for any organization, all testimony or official statements on public or legal policy that she had ever delivered to any public body, all of her speeches, talks, panel discussions, lectures. And do you know what she had to put down? None. She hadn't done any of that. Nothing. She had nothing to give them. Now, when they said if she published anything, they wanted everything she had ever published. She came up with 20 things, including a piece that she'd written as a college intern called Winners in the Library Quest competition. This is the judge sitting at this most consequential in American history trial. It's beyond belief. You think she's going to recuse herself? Boy, you know, the Taliban coming back into the picture and the Buddha statues today was a bit of a head turner. And so was a headline I saw saying 9 women accuse Bill Cosby of sexual assault. I'm thinking, what? And yeah, this is a whole different group. This in Nevada, 9 women going after him in the same way that E. Jean Carroll went after Trump. It'll be civil cases where, as in New York, the state decided to open up the what do you call that? Where statute of limitation, and bango. So they can't get the guy in jail, but they can take every red cent they can get out of him. And so that's what's happening with Bill Cosby. I'm embarrassed by this. Bree, I don't even know what you're talking about. What do you think about the latest UAP stories? UAP. Tell me here. Specifically, the interview from News Nation with the Pittsburgh native. I don't know what you're talking about, Bree. I'm sorry. And he also says, your story about the Taliban makes me think this is a reason why I wouldn't want to engage with humankind. Oh, why E.T. wouldn't want to engage with humankind just now. Yeah, you can see if there were any intelligent life out there that they'd say, see that blue planet there? Give it a pass. Don't go anywhere near it. The inhabitants thereof are busily destroying it and each other, and it's more trouble than it's worth. Let's just head off some greener pastures. By the way, after this latest indictment, Trump raised almost $7 million from his, idiot base. Once a grifter, always a grifter. And then, talking about how things seem like, again, down the rabbit hole. Listen to, I hadn't seen this particular quote that from Trump after the day of his indictment, and then when he ended up back at his, lavish, bad taste place in Bedminster, New Jersey, he said, and stop and think about this. If here is the most corrupt president we have ever had, and listen to what he said. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Yeah. I know when I think of Joe Biden, the first thing that comes into my head is the head of a crime family. God! Now, Trump, on the other hand, isn't it odd how it's always, I've said this a million times, but it's just startling. The projection, where whatever he's saying about his opponent is something that is not true unless you turn it around and apply it to him. Then it's true. So Trump went on to call Biden a traitor. That is not true. Trump is the traitor. He went on to call Joe Biden the, quote, biggest liar and corrupt. You cannot find a bigger liar than Donald Trump. A corrupt person with a corrupted soul, if he even has one, who corrupts everything he touches. He's like the King Midas of corruption. He destroys everything and everybody who comes near him. And yet, tens of millions of Americans think he's the answer to their troubles. Oh, dear God. And then, when I saw this, I thought, you got to be kidding me, right? How is it possible that we are, including me, certainly, still capable of being astonished and being astonished by I don't know, something some Republican says or some, or Fox News says or does. How is it we're still capable of saying, what? You gotta be kidding. Did you see what Fox News put up? This is in its 8 o'clock hour. That's when, remember Tucker? That's when Tucker used to reign. And now I guess it's just a rotating bunch of wannabes. But they were covering in toto on Tuesday night Trump's grievous speech at Bedminster after his indictment. And while they're covering it, the chyron, which is the banner at the bottom with the words on it, they did a split screen, Trump on the right and the current president on the left, who was, I don't know what he was doing. And here's what Fox told its, viewers about what they were seeing. Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested. Now, that is such a convolution of reality that even for Fox News, I have to admit, I was stunned. Here is a so-called news operation calling Joe Biden a wannabe dictator who has had Donald Trump arrested because he's his political rival. Again, it's that thing, just turn it around and you get a measure of truth, right? There is a wannabe dictator in the picture here. It is not Joe Biden. Apparently, even for Fox News, this was a doozy. And so they were immediately contacted by reporters who said, what was that? And the spokeswoman for Fox News said, the chyron was taken down immediately. She also had to respond to the fact that leading into it, the anchor called Donald Trump the President of the United States. Meanwhile, of course, the real President of the United States was called the wannabe dictator. And she also said that the anchor's comment was an unintentional mistake. Right. God. All right, guys, that's it. I am so sorry. Apparently, there's an alert out that you are all to avoid the area around Acrisure Stadium Friday and Saturday night because Taylor Swift is in residence. Just saying, in case you didn't know, heads up. And that'll be it for me for this week. What horrors we will encounter in the days before we talk again, one can only imagine. It's just like, for those of you who never dropped acid, I got to tell you, this whole thing is just like a really bad acid trip. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.